Wire.
Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a Minnesota Viking. This was the right call.
Cousins pressure, hit as he throws, going for Thielen. He's got it! Touchdown! Oh my Diggs! Stay up! Oh my God! Oh my God! 30! No way! Touchdown! It's a Minneapolis miracle!
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome into Bleeding Purple, a podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. We are part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. You can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube, recently updated YouTube, I might add. Thank you for sticking with us. Sorry about the delay. Going to stay on that going forward. My name is Tyler Haig. Oh, by the way, we're brought to you this week by Untuckit and Untuckit.com. I almost forgot. This is weird to say, but I enjoy their ad reads, Adam. Some of them are dumb and hard to read. Not Untuckit.com. They're good. You'll hear it a little bit later in the episode. My name's Tyler Haig. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Adam Patrick. Adam Patrick, how are you feeling about the loss? The L. Season over.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I guess that's all I can say is not surprised. I wish it turned out differently, but the 49ers are a very good team. They're the number one seed in the NFC for a reason. And the Vikings were not the good team on Saturday. Yeah. It was pretty clear.
Yes. That was, to me, the clearest thing. I want to ask you this question because I don't really... Well, I think I know the answer, but I don't know what the answer means. Question is this. If the coach is swapped, if Mike Zimmer is the coach of the San Francisco 49ers with that roster, and Shanahan is the coach of the Vikings with this roster, what is the outcome of that game? Do you think the outcome is the same?
Probably.
I think so too.
Because the Vikings offensive line is not that good.
Yeah.
They were hurting in the defensive backfield. And the 49ers just have very good defense. They got Quan Alexander back on Saturday, and he made a big difference. Nick Bosa. That whole defensive line, they're just a bunch of beasts.
That to me was like
all first round picks, so It's not surprising. But
I talked on this program basically all season about how even I thought the top part of the NFC was, going into the playoffs. I thought it was very even. I think San Francisco is better than that group, and they
got a lot of guys back from injury too, so it was hard. It's hard to like.
That was what I was going to say. When I was saying those things, I think I wasn't lying. I wasn't confused. I think the team that I was seeing, the teams that we were seeing at that time, I think they were all very even. Well, you add a couple, 2, 3, 4 really good players to that San Francisco defense. Yeah, that changes how even things look.
And they take out, the guy who gave up that Diggs touchdown. I was hoping they'd keep him in, so, you could pick on him all day, but the Niners are smart enough to take him out.
Also, for the record,
Kevin Jones called that.
Yeah, dude, Kevin Jones was like, from the opening snap, I told my wife, I was like, oh, wow, Kevin Jones, nailed it. That's exactly where they're going. The backup corner. We're going to get into Stefanski and all that stuff in a little bit, but right after the game, that seemed to be a very common sentiment, I guess, for lack of a better term. There is that the scheme on offense was not good. I feel like no matter how good of a scheme the Vikings would have had on offense, I feel like the players on defense for San Francisco were going to destroy anything they were trying to do. Yes, they could have. Could the Vikings have had a game plan that would have kept that game close and maybe given them a chance? Sure. I'm not saying they couldn't have done that. But given what we saw in that game, I don't think there was really any realistic chance the Vikings were going to be able to to move the ball against that defense, I guess is what
No,
I'm going to say.
yeah,
Do you
not-
see it as a scheme issue? Did you? I think I saw a tweet of yours that kind of alluded to that. Maybe it was not a super awesome game plan.
I didn't like it, obviously, because the Vikings kept running the ball, at least to start off with, and it wasn't working. And they kept running it on like first down pretty much every drive. And it's just special guest.
Newt the dog.
It wasn't working, and and the 49ers were putting like 8 or 9 guys in the box, so they were like, yeah, go ahead and run the ball. We're just gonna stop you. And the Vikings are just like, okay, well we'll keep running it because we want to set up the play action, even though when we run the play action, it's not going to work because we can't run the ball. So you're not going to be afraid of play action. Someone's going to be in Kirk Cousins' face right after he's done faking the handoff.
That to me is it. It's a double-edged sword because you have to run the ball because you need the play action to work. But if you're not running the ball, the play action isn't going to work. I think that is schematically to me was the biggest issue, not only for this game but the entire season was. It's not necessarily bad game plans. It's not necessarily bad scripted whatever.
They didn't really have a backup plan.
No,
if the run didn't work.
Yes, if there was never an answer, if you took away the run/play action, there was no backup plan. They just were not going to be able to move the ball that day. And that, I think, is really frustrating, definitely from a fan perspective, because you wind up with stuff like that where it's like, well, we have to establish the run. It's like, well, the run isn't working, and this is the last game of the season. You should try something else.
Yeah.
By the time they do try something else, it's too late, and then it's 3rd and 17, and Kirk is not going to handle that well. The offensive line is not going to handle that well. I mean, I don't know. Could you let me ask you this. Do you think Stefanski's interview played a part in him, played a part in the offense not performing as well as they needed to?
I'd like to hope not, but it has to be considered, just because it happened.
That's a great answer, dude.
At the same time,
that's totally how I feel.
At the same time, the players have to go out and execute. Because we talk about all the time how Mike Zimmer sets this team up, in the right position, and it's up to the guys on the field to go out and execute. And that's the same thing with the offense. But with the play calling, I think Stefanski might have been a little too conservative this year. He might have. There were some plays, he tried to Diggs pass a couple of times or whatever, but overall it was mostly run and play action. They took a couple deep shots here and there, but I feel like I don't even think the Vikings tried a deep shot on Saturday. Even with Diggs not being guarded by Sherman or whatever,
yeah. Well, they did. They had the one that was completed where Diggs, caught it or whatever and scored.
And that worked.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like, they took that option away. It was like, oh, it's not that player anymore. So now what do we do? It seemed like there was no rebound on the game plan. It was like there was always, okay, we're going to adjust a little bit, but it seemed like there was never you're going to do that. Well, that means that we automatically change to this version of the offense. It was just, there was no backup plan. I'm not obviously an offensive coordinator here. I think you nailed it. It's impossible for me as a human being to see you do something that's totally out of the ordinary, different, and benefits you in the long term, both financially and professionally, and think that your heart is in the same spot as it was week 4 or 5. I think that's just human nature to do that. Do I fault a guy for taking that job? No. Do I fault a guy for taking that interview? No. Do I think there's any other way around it or whatever? No. It is what it is, and it sucks that it keeps happening to the Vikings right before they get annihilated in the playoffs.
Here's the thing, though. Mike Zimmer could have said, "No, you can't. I'm not going to allow." He can say, "I'm not going to allow anyone to interview for head coaching jobs during the playoffs while we're getting ready."
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's the kind of guy he is. He's as mean and angry as he looks on the field, he's a pretty decent person.
I think he's an understanding coach for sure.
Yeah,
at the
and he
very
wants
least.
his guys to get the opportunities that they can. He doesn't want them to miss out on them because he sees some guys maybe on the Patriots who didn't get those opportunities because they're always in the Super Bowl. And Belichick's like, you got to wait till after the season.
Ever see an untucked button down? They look bad. Why? Because they weren't meant to be worn that way. Thankfully, there's Untuck It, the original button down shirt actually designed to be worn untucked no matter your shape or size. Untuck It shirts always fall at the perfect untucked length with more than 50 different fit combinations, 50 plus, more than 50 different fit combinations. Untuck It shirts look great on tall, short, slim, athletic, big guys, all ages, doesn't matter. Choose from different styles like wrinkle-free button-downs, super soft flannels, outerwear, a bunch. Never look baggy, bulgy, too long, or too big. Whether you're shopping for the perfect gift or just trying to create a smart, relaxed style of your own, Untuck It is the way to go. Visit untuckit.com and use code BLUE for 20% off at checkout. That's untuckit.com, UNTUCKIT.com. Promo code BLUE. And
But-
they also, didn't they just recently block Stefanski too from
The Giants job last
yeah,
the
yeah.
offensive coordinator job last year, yeah.
So he kind of, not like he owed him or anything, but it's not crazy that he would let that happen. So yeah, Stefanski to Cleveland as the new head coach. I guess I want to ask you, do you think that, I mean, it's Cleveland, so success is kind of a relative term, but like, do you think he's going to be good there? Do you think that's too
No
much
idea.
of a train wreck?
No idea. As
Flip a
good as you
coin.
might think as good as a coach you might think he is, you have to factor in so much with that franchise,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the last 20 years. It's just
Yeah.
because look how much hype they had going into this year. Everyone's like, oh, they're gonna win the AFC North and be in the playoffs, and they got a lot of talent, but it takes more than that.
Well, and how much
Obviously.
how much of that talent is going to be on the roster by the time this season
Yeah.
starts? We don't know because it might not be everybody.
So I think he's a better hire than Freddie Kitchens.
Ditto. I totally agree with that.
That's not very hard to do, as we've seen.
Kind of nice for Cleveland that they get like a do-over where they're like, okay, we definitely screwed that up last year by not giving you the job. So
And I don't like that either. People are saying like, oh, they picked the guy who was a runner-up to Freddie Kitchens, and they're like, no, they picked the guy who they should have picked last year, and they're just making up for their errors and picking him this year. I think it's one of the better hires they've probably made in the past couple of years. That's really all I can say on that.
just like what a statement. Like,
If they-
just on its...
They just have to get if they get a winning record, that's a success.
Mhm.
They don't even have to make the playoff.
I totally agree with that. You finish, yeah. It's so hard to predict. I don't know. I think
It is.
Stefanski's a really good coach, but I thought Shermer was a really good coach too. And
We don't know how much, and we honestly don't know how much Stefanski had, to do with the offensive game planning and all that. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll find out.
I don't know. I think he seemed, everything I've read and heard about Stefanski leads me to believe that he's going to be successful because he's not afraid of taking other people's input.
No.
Like,
no.
it seems like he's
Very good at
totally
that.
okay with like, let's all work together and make this as good as it can be, which I think is where a lot of NFL, not just NFL, but especially NFL head coaches go
My way or
wrong.
the highway.
Yes, my way or the highway. This is our system. You have to fit this system. And what you need to do is take all the input you can,
Yeah.
fit your offense to your players or defense or whatever, your scheme to
Yep.
your players. It's so important to do that.
Why
but
would
these
you-
guys get
yeah.
caught up in?
Why would you want your players to do things they're not good at?
Yeah. I don't know.
So
Well, because it's your way, and for a lot of these guys, it's like, well, we'll get you out of here, and we don't need to worry about this, whatever. And no, you're not going to play ping pong in the locker room, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, and all of a sudden it becomes this big thing. I don't know. It's stupid, and I don't think that Stefanski would do that, if that makes sense. So this is like scorched earth after the Vikings lose this game. Stefanski is hired as the head coach of the Browns.
It's going to be a big offseason.
And then defensive coordinator George Edwards out. I saw Bleacher Report flashes the alerts or whatever. I get these alerts because I'm plugged in, Adam, obviously. I cover the Vikings on a podcast. But it said fired George Edwards.
No, he didn't get fired. His contract ran out.
Yeah, respectfully disagree with fired. Let's just get that out there right away, because that is a pretty big thing.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, big difference, and that's a big publication, like putting that out there.
Also, defensive coordinator. I know that was his title, but he wasn't the guy holding the play card every week.
No, and this to me is has to be the easiest decision, not if I'm George Edwards, but just from an outsider looking in. It's so you had this guy who was in charge of the defense, but really wasn't in charge of the defense because you were in charge of the defense, and he wants to go somewhere else and be in charge of a defense?
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, rumor is he might go to Cleveland, so they might have Stefanski, Edwards, and Prefer in Cleveland.
Get the band back together. Minnesota East a little bit.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, golly. And Prefer. Didn't think that. And then also DB's coach Jerry Gray, who was also not renewed. And he, again, also rumored to be part of the Cleveland mix, I read today. So, a lot changing. Who's going to replace these coaches? Defensive coordinator, are you really that concerned? Not with Mike Zimmer as the coach. However, rumors coming out. Zimmer's kid, a candidate to be the defensive coordinator. How do you feel about that? God, I knew you were going to say that. How do you feel about Zimmer's son being the defensive coordinator?
I think it's fine because Zimmer's looking for someone who's not going to try and overtake him as a play caller. And I don't think his son's going to do that.
100%.
I think another guy is Andre Patterson. He's the defensive line coach. But that's up to him if he wants to do that. He's been very good at his job developing those defensive linemen. Danielle Hunter, Fedio Denebo, Stephen Weatherly, all those guys. Everson Griffin. He's responsible for pretty much all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Adam Zimmer is probably it's a fine choice. People will look at him and be like, "Oh, it's just because he's the coach's son." It's because he doesn't want anyone to be like, "I want to call the plays."
Well, the coach's son thing, I would get that if it was a sucky thing that didn't work ever.
Also, what if he does well? Also, he's done well developing. He was a linebackers coach for the Vikings. He's done well developing Kendricks and Barr. And what if Mike Zimmer wants to step down? They're like, hey, why don't we just have his son be the coach?
These coaches' kids are lifer. We lost in the playoffs to a coach's kid. This week. Bill Belichick's kid is on his staff as something or other. I mean,
everybody.
All of the God, so many names. Shanahan, Zimmer, Kubiak. Thank you, is a great one. Who else? Wasn't Schottenheimer? Didn't his kid?
Yep. He's the Seahawks guy.
Who else? I mean, you could. There are millions. The point I'm making here is that if it was
Gruden brothers.
Yeah, if it was some we are gonna hire Mike Zimmer's kid to be the head of PR for the Minnesota Vikings, or no, we're gonna Wabi's out. We're gonna have Mike Zimmer's kid replace him as the Vikings Entertainment Network head honcho. Then I would be like, that's a weird, sucky thing that you're doing here. We're talking about football, defense.
He's grown up in it. He's been a coach for a while.
I think
he was with the Bengals. He was with the Saints. So it's not like he's just getting the job because he's
totally Zimmer's son. He spent the last 8 years at Arizona State and just got off the plane and grabbed his garbage bag, duct tape garbage bag.
Scott Turner too.
North
Turner's son is another one.
Mm-hmm.
The Turners.
Thank you, Scott Turner. Yes, the Turners. Any offensive coordinator, I'm sure Wade Phillips, he's not an offensive coordinator, but I'm sure Wade Phillips' kid is on
His dad. Wade
That's-
Phillips' dad, Bum Phillips.
That's what I'm saying. All these guys.
Buddy Ryan, Rex Ryan.
Yes, Buddy Ryan, Rex Ryan. That's another good one. These guys are.
It's just what happens.
It is.
That's what happens in
And
football.
I was just seeing, like, the vibe I got on Twitter today when that rumor came out was like, I'm out on Zimmer. Like, this is crazy. Like, I can't support this anymore. Like, I'm on the line now, like, with this dude. And I just can't. I don't understand why hiring your football lifer son is like a bad idea.
But people are okay with Clint Kubiak are potentially being the offensive coordinator with his dad on the staff.
Yeah, I don't understand. That's what I don't get.
What's
it.
the difference?
I don't think there is a difference.
What's the difference? What's the difference?
I don't think there is a difference. Oh yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different things that we.
But it does sound like Mike Zimmer wants to keep things, like probably promote from within.
Mm-hmm.
He had his season-ending presser today on Monday. He sounds like he wants to keep continuity going because that hasn't really been a thing, at least on the offensive side of the ball.
It's true.
Where they've had 5 different guys in 5 years.
Do you think that's a problem, or do you think that is a result of successful coaches?
I don't think it's a problem because it happens everywhere. I think it's blown out of proportion. I think there's only like 3 guys in the whole league that have stuck around with their teams for like more than 2 years. It's like Andy Reid, Josh McDaniels, and like Doug Peterson or something. So it doesn't happen often unless you have a head coach who's calling the plays. And the Vikings have a defensive head coach, and that's how it goes. And they seem to be fine. Mm-hmm. They made the playoffs for the 3rd time in 5 years.
Did you see Zimmer today said that he talked to Bill Parcells about what it's going to take to get him over the hump?
Yeah.
Do you feel... I think this is like a common, especially in Minnesota, but it's a common sports refrain is we're in the playoffs every year. Fan base gets frustrated because they can't win a championship.
Dennis Green.
Get all of the Flip Saunders is another one in Minnesota that comes to mind. It happens a lot. Bruce Boudreau, basically everywhere he's been as a hockey coach, he does well in the regular season, doesn't do great in the playoffs, gets killed, whatever, and then they get fired.
The Rockets.
Yes. Do you think we're at that point with Zimmer where it's like, no, I'm not saying does Zimmer need to get fired, but do you think the organization itself and the fan base itself is getting impatient with this regime? Do you think that this is like going to be a forced change within the next couple of years if it doesn't bring a Super Bowl? Because realistically speaking, we got a lot of years behind us here, Adam, telling us that they're probably not going to win it again next year.
Yeah,
I think he gets fired then.
You can look at it from this way, like the hourglass is turned the other way now. So he's already had the first half, and now he's coming into the second half, where if he doesn't, start to get things improved, then they're gonna look elsewhere, and that's because the ultimate goal is to win the Super Bowl. And I think if the Vikings probably don't make the NFC Championship next year, Zimmer could be on the outs. I think he's entering a kind of a make or break year. He's probably going to get an extension this summer. They don't mean anything. But he's got to do more than just make the playoffs. And I think at least be competitive, because I think on Saturday that game wasn't really competitive. You watch like the Seahawks and Packers game on Sunday, and that game came down to like the last possession or two, and that's all I think people wanted to see, was if the Vikings are going to lose, at least go down with a fight, and not Saturday where they seem outplayed and outcoached and
no, I
pretty
think
much every aspect.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It's normally you lose like Seattle loses, you think, well, we're right there.
Yeah.
a couple different things go our way, and we win that game. The Vikings, the last several,
We need
well,
a lot-
basically
we need a lot
in
more.
in the Zimmer regime, they're really good until they find the line. And when they find the line of the team that's better than them, it's a hard line, and it's very apparent that they are not as good as that other team. Whereas Seattle gets done with that game and they think, God, we're just as good as they are.
Yeah, you look at it has a lot to do with quarterback play, obviously.
Mhm.
But you look at teams like that where like they go into every game every year and they could win it. But you look at a Vikings team and you're like, there's games they should win, and then you look at specific matchups, maybe against the Seahawks or against the Chiefs, and you're like, that's probably a loss.
I think Seattle was a great example of that yesterday, where that was a team that was so not nearly as good as Green Bay, and they just had a really good quarterback. And he just kept them in the game the whole time. Like,
that's really...
It sucks, but it's true.
It's really what it comes down to, and I was thinking about this more today, and I'm like, if the Vikings decided this offseason they wanted to go, because this draft there's a bunch of quarterbacks in this draft that could make a difference, and if the Vikings wanted to go all in on one in the first round, I wouldn't have any problem with that. But they have to figure it has to be this year, because it's either that or you extend Kirk, because you can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and be here next year and maybe have a new coach and a new GM next year. You gotta figure something out this year.
See, and that was why when you brought up the Zimmer after next year, I was thinking, I think Zimmer might have more time than that, because they might give him more time post Kirk Cousins.
I think if they draft, he should be smart if he wants to stick around and draft a quarterback, because I will give him more years, because they'll be like, oh, we want to see how you do with this guy as your quarterback. Kind of how like not Jim Harbaugh, but John Harbaugh did with Lamar Jackson, because I think they were like 5-11
the year before,
1 year, and then they got Lamar Jackson.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Now look at him. So if that would be a smart decision. That would be something smart for Zimmer to campaign for, this offseason, as much as, he might say he likes Kirk, but it would be a smart decision for him to be like, let's get a quarterback.
To me, it has to be the
stick
play.
around.
To me, it has to be the play. You have
at this
to draft somebody
At this point,
early.
this is what works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson.
You just aren't going to be able to find. I kind of was arguing about this on Twitter not long ago, but you're not going to find the caliber of quarterback that you were looking for, because you need something that's better than Kirk Cousins. You're not going to find anything better than Kirk Cousins unless it's in the top.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough.
I
think we've seen a good enough sample size of Kirk Cousins. He's not a terrible quarterback.
No, God, no.
He's capable of helping you win games, but he's not at that elite level.
Yeah, and if you want that elite level, you got to go up in the draft to get it. I think you have to do it.
Yep.
And then the Kirk problem will solve itself, because he will either play his way into, okay, we'll re-sign you and then have this kid as trade bait or whatever, and then, oh God, poor Kirk Cousins would never live that down. The problem they're going to run into is that if they wait too long on Kirk Cousins, he's going to be overpriced again, because they're going to have to outbid other teams for his services. Because say what you will about Kirk Cousins being like mediocre, when he's on the open market and people know what he's capable of, it's going to be an upgrade for a lot of different teams, and they will want to pay him.
Yeah, of course. Because teams are always looking for quarterbacks, but I think you could look at this season and look, Vikings pretty much gave him everything he needed to succeed in the season. Great running game. He's great at play action, so they did a lot of that. He had two, great receivers. Thielen was out for a bunch, but he still had Diggs, but he had Rudolph out there, and he had, the Kubiak Shanahan system that he's good at running. So he had a lot in his favor, and they still came up short. So
do you think with a better offensive line, he's more
I don't
successful?
think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know if it does either.
I don't think it makes a difference.
At this point, debating that is more an indictment of the quarterback than it is.
Yeah, look, Russell Wilson gets sacked like 40 times a year.
That's what I'm saying. In the the level of offensive line play that we are seeing.
Not to like keep using him as a comparison, but
that's true. We shouldn't use him as a comparison
because obviously they're very different players. But
the point that you're making though is that Collar says
seems to always be the excuse.
It's overcoming things that aren't going your way, overcoming a bad offensive line, overcoming the fact that you can't do play action or run the ball today, overcoming the fact that you really, really need to throw the ball because there's only 2 minutes left. Kirk Cousins can't do that stuff. And it's okay, and they can win a ton of games, and I personally think that they could win a Super Bowl with him, but I think you have to acknowledge that and move on accordingly. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're at a point now. This is going to be a super important offseason for the Vikings just because of the guys that probably won't be coming back and guys they have to let go. And, got Dalvin Cook who might need an extension. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I'm very curious to see what they do with Kirk Cousins because I haven't heard anything about them discussing an extension with him, other than to lower his cap hit for 2020. But I think to not even like attempt at maybe trying to get a quarterback early in this draft would be a mistake, I think, for the Vikings.
I agree. I think that what I want them to do, take a quarterback early, let Kirk play out the deal, figure it out after that. What I think they'll do,
like Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes kind of thing.
Totally, 100%. What I think they're actually going to do is like
extend Kirk and draft
give Kirk some weak ass vote of confidence, and then draft Chase somebody
Daniel
in like the fourth
as his
round.
backup.
Yes, it's going to be something stupid like that.
I don't know.
Because
I think Mike Zimmer's going to look back and he's going to talk because Kubiak's been in the league for a while, so. He knows what it takes. So they're gonna, go over some things and be like, try and figure out if he's the guy, because he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So they've got as much leverage as Kirk Cousins does. It's not like Kirk Cousins is going out there and throwing for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns.
Yeah, if Kirk Cousins was like carrying this team on his back to these wins, it would maybe be different. But and also Kubiak is, of all the guys who would know, Kubiak would be like, listen, you got to go get a Peyton Manning type or this isn't going to work for you. I speak from experience.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who's going to be available in the next couple of years.
Tom Brady.
No.
Tom Brady this offseason.
I'm sure. I feel like Aaron Rodgers would probably be a Viking before Tom Brady.
What?
Just because of because he'd want to have revenge on the Packers.
I can't wait for that season, by the way.
Yeah, right?
It's gonna happen,
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think just going through this episode, it just made me realize that I'd like the Vikings to look into getting a quarterback in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that's just what works. And as much as you don't want to admit it, you look at Kirk Cousins, you're like, it can work, and then you have this season where they gave him pretty much all the tools necessary to succeed, and it still came up short. And it's not even coming up short in the playoffs. It was all the games against like the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Packers on Monday night. Like just he had some good games.
Bad losses that you don't want to have, and I think there's also something to be said about the when you draft a guy, there's like a certain amount of rooting for it kind of a thing. The Vikings signed Kirk Cousins. The Vikings signed Kirk Cousins, and it's immediately like, you better be this good or we're mad at you. Whereas
because we're paying you that money.
Yeah. Whereas you draft a guy like
coming
Teddy,
out of our pocket.
Yeah. My money.
That's what people make it seem.
Yes. Whereas you draft a guy like Teddy, and it's figured out, bud. Like, we love you. And Teddy's a little bit different
because leeway.
Yeah, because he's definitely a more likable dude than most. But I think the point is there where it's like, you root for a guy, you give him a little more leeway. You are hoping they do. Look, Ron Treadwell stayed on this team for 5 years.
Who's a free agent?
That doesn't happen. Tom
this
Brady.
year.
Who?
That too. Teddy Bridgewater.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is.
Get out of town. That'll be fun to talk about.
Oh man, when
I did not know that.
when Mike Zimmer
that
loved
kind
it.
of sucks.
Love to do that. Bring him in. Be like, all right, go see if you can win the job.
What if that's the play? What if it's bring in Teddy
Teddy
Bridgewater as the backup and just let him go after?
Nah, yeah, I don't
just
know.
let him battle to
I
battle
don't
to the
know because
death.
he just wins everywhere. I don't even know how he does it. He just wins everywhere.
That's all he does.
It
That's all he's
doesn't
ever
need
done.
flash, but yeah, you never know in this league.
You
You
don't.
never know.
Would you love that, or would you think that would be a set?
I would love it because I would get to write about it, cover it, and hear everyone's terrible opinions about it.
Oh, you're gonna hear that either way, bub.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we can handle that. If the fan base can
handle
take that.
Dude. Oh, that's
everyone
why
would side. Everyone would side with Teddy Bridgewater too. By the way,
It would be really brutal.
Kirk
to
Cousins
watch.
would have no shot to be the starter, and then they'd be paying $30 million for a guy to send them back.
I was gonna say it might be the first time in the history of professional sports where the guy's gonna be like, you know what, just take this contract, take your money. I'm just gonna head out. Obvious that I'm not wanted here. You guys have a great time. Yeah, I would like that. I like Teddy. I think he just wins a lot. I don't know. I can't get into a Teddy thing because we're already, dude. This offseason is going to be offensive line again. It's going to be quarterback
Is it
stuff
though?
a little bit. I feel like the
They
offensive
might already
line
have
thing
guys. They might already even have guys on their roster.
He made it sound
for their
like that
offensive
today,
line.
didn't Mike
Yeah.
Zimmer in the thing? Like, oh yeah, we basically redshirted guys.
Elfline,
Oh, did you
Elfline needs to go.
think so?
Yeah, he's terrible.
See, that's
watch
why I think the offensive line is maybe a need because, God, there were some reps yesterday, Saturday during that game.
Yeah, but
where
how
I
much?
was like, I don't care when he was drafted. If that happens to him on a professional football field, you got to get him off the professional football field. Like, Jesus,
Yeah,
that
and
was like
well,
TJ Clemmings at times.
but the 49ers defensive line is very good, so they can.
incredible.
A lot of that probably had to do with them too,
I can't stand the Bosa's.
because the week before. Oh
That
yeah,
dude was good. Oh,
the week
also, we haven't
before
even talked
against
about
the
cheap
Saints.
shot.
Whatever. It's football. Get over
Whoa! All
it.
right.
I didn't even think it was
okay.
that bad. Like,
You didn't think
yeah,
so?
you shouldn't do it, but I've seen way worse.
Oh yeah, way
football.
worse for sure. Yeah, I get anger behind it because of the injury.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that.
It's cheap, but that sort of thing happens.
There's a lot of
all
cheap
the
things in
time.
football
Yeah,
too. Like
there's a lot of cheap football players.
Vikings do a lot of cut blocks,
Mhm.
and then you could ruin someone's career
All
like
kinds
that.
of cheap
So
things happen. It's
so-
football. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay,
pick
Yep.
your battles.
I'm with you. Okay. Let's end on this. Jaron Curse says the Vikings don't want him back.
Why?
I tend to believe Jaron Curse because anytime he was about to play, somebody new was going to play instead.
Well,
They would sign somebody. They
I
almost
think
they
something.
worked
I think
out
something happened this year.
Terrence
that might have-
Newman.
He might have.
Oh yeah, that's right. He might have
punished
been in
for
the
it.
doghouse still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point. Man, you got to be. That's
I think he tweeted today that he just wants a shot, and I was like, poor word choice.
yeah, maybe not the way to word it, bud. Phrasing.
I mean, you got the ammo.
Okay, that's. Let's end on this. Who do you? Well, first let's wrap up the Jaron Curse. You don't expect him back, do you?
No, he's not coming back.
I can't. I want to.
He's good.
I think he's good too.
He was
This
good
is-
whenever he was on the field, but just for some reason didn't work out with the Vikings. And Anthony Harris is a better option. And they should try and re-sign him.
I'm not obviously a like big time sports journalist, dude. I've only been to a couple of training camp type activities.
He's a giant person.
He is a massive, giant, terrifying. He looks like he's one of those first guy off the bus guys where it's like, that's the guy we want everybody to see.
Yeah.
But then you see him out there and is.
Almost.
Yeah, he's just a normal whatever.
But everyone's like that in the NFL.
Well, no, he's like on another level because he's just a massive.
Just because of the
corner
position he
compared
plays,
to everybody.
probably.
Yeah, his position group is crazy. But that was the reason I bring that up is because he's the first legit, real, actual example I have of. You can look at somebody. It's like Josh Allen. I get it.
Yeah.
How you could look at a field and be like, I don't care what they say about his accuracy. Did you see that kid throw the ball 90 yards just now? Like, wow. I would have done the same thing with J-Ron Curse. I would have been like, I don't care what his 40 time or whatever you're saying is. Look at how big and awesome this guy is.
But if you're going to be a backup safety, the Vikings can find someone who's not going to get in trouble to be their backup. So
yeah. And not only that, they can find like
interesting to watch though,
too,
because he's very good friends with Stephon Diggs. So, be curious to see how Mr. Diggs reacts to his friend not being brought back.
If Stephon Diggs is surprised by this, Stephon Diggs hasn't been paying very close attention. But yeah, it would. All of a sudden, man, those corners are not looking so deep. The safeties are like, we got a couple of really good safeties, but money-wise, where's that going to go? Something to discuss at a later episode. J-Ron Curse.
A lot's going to happen. It's going to be a very different team next year.
Very different team. Very different coaching staff. Very different everything.
Yeah.
Let's end on this. Who do you want to see in the Super Bowl? Now that the Vikings have been eliminated and it's just the championship games, the conference championship games. Packers, 49ers, New
Chiefs.
England, and whoever else.
No.
Just kidding. That's most years.
Chiefs and Titans. Probably just the Chiefs and 49ers.
I want Titans in the Super Bowl.
Titans.
Oh, so bad. Oh, so bad. Could you imagine?
Tannehill going back to Miami.
Oh, Tannehill. I would love
Tannehill, who hasn't even had 100 yards passing in a game yet in the playoffs.
What a life for that guy. He was a
Right.
wide receiver at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They changed him over. High draft pick. Zillionaire. Now he's going to be in the Super Bowl, obviously. I think the Titans would be a fun story, but I think they're going to get annihilated. But
Never know.
The Chiefs are
People thought they were going to get
good.
annihilated by the Ravens.
It's good. It's true. It's true.
So,
I can't believe the Ravens lost. That was a little bit surprising.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I really don't care who's in the Super Bowl as long as it's not the Packers. I just can't have the Packers.
I feel like
in the
Packers
Super
Titans
Bowl.
would probably be the worst. It'd be so boring. You're like, right.
Think about how thrilling.
Also, a very bad uniform matchup.
Yo, terrible uniform
Packers
matchup.
Titans.
And then think about how horrible the segments leading up to the Super Bowl. Like, let's talk about this quarterback. How exciting! And it's like
Aaron Rodgers.
Tannehill and Aaron Rodgers.
I bet you the NFL is pulling for Chiefs and Packers since it's the 100th, year of the NFL, and the
Get
very
out of
first
town.
Super Bowl was the Chiefs and Packers.
I could have predicted it before the season started, Adam. It's been rigged this whole time.
Oh yeah, we should have known.
I knew it.
NFL's rigged.
Duped again.
Case Keenum was jobbed. He was screwed.
It was predetermined. It's
Yep.
just garbage. Minneapolis Miracle, predetermined.
Yep.
Also, this is actually the last thing now. And
Okay.
And I'll let you go. Minnesota Miracle, Minneapolis Miracle.
Oh, Minneapolis.
If that Al Michaels says Minnesota Miracle again, I'm going to send him a sternly worded email.
Hey, listen, the Vikings. I think they still haven't won a game with Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth as the announcers. I don't think their record's very good with those two. But
Yeah, I think you're right. That's too bad because they're like my favorites.
nah.
Not so much.
Hey,
Romo guy, maybe?
Romo's going to ESPN now.
No, that's a rumor. Don't get me all excited about it. Don't do that.
Supposed to get like $15 million a year.
Bro, Romo will revive the Monday Night franchise. I would be so excited for that. They could
Right?
fix it all in one hire, Adam.
Right?
One hire. Fix it
You
all in one
you
hire. I would
tune in to watch like the Bengals and Redskins.
Totally, I would. To see Tony, and I mean that, and I'm not being sarcastic, to the point where I would turn off good games because of Booger. I will turn on bad games because of Tony Romo. My only question is what happens to Jim Nance. Please don't put Phil Simms back out there. Please don't pull Phil Self back.
Yeah, I don't know who they would. They'd probably bring like just try and bring another player like Nate Burleson or something on there.
Oh, it's Jason
That'd be
Witten is who it is. That's what's gonna happen. He'll retire. CBS.
Jason Witten.
Yeah, man.
Did you miss his stint on Monday Night Football?
No,
when he
it's
couldn't
terrible. I'm not
say
saying it's gonna be
words?
good. I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying that's what they'll do. It'll be that swap. That's
I think
what'll happen.
I think CBS is a little smarter than ESPN. So.
You never know. I don't have a lot of trust in those guys these days.
They're
all working. It's all some puppeteer, puppet master on top of them, anyways. So
Yeah,
I gotta
puppets.
say it.
Sesame Street operation.
Right. It's all rigged, dude. We talked about it.
Yeah,
So.
everything's rigged.
All right, bud. Sad end of the season. I'm depressed that we'll preview the nope, and I want to say Skull Vikes, but it's not even a game. I guess we could still say Skull Vikes.
Are there any
podcast.
even Vikings players left? Oh, I think Michael Pruitt's on the Titans.
Not interested. I'm out.
All right.
Now we'll see. Just not the Packers, please. Just not the
Yeah.
Packers. That's all.
No, they won't have the refs in their favor on Sunday, so they'll be good.
Don't even get me started. First down. You saw the line, right? Did you see the line?
Yeah.
All right.
The refs didn't.
No. Skull Vikes. See ya.
Go.